ต้อง
ครับผม May I respect to Venerable Pate Visuddhi Muni, Director of Vipassana Thura Institute. I am the representative of Vipassana Thura Institute. I would like to invite Venerable Sujan Varapunya Meditation Center, Scotland, United Kingdom, to talk the Dhamma in English. From now on, peace and thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Namato Ratana Tayassa. May I pay homage to Triple Zim, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to be part of this retreat, online retreat, to give a talk. So I'm very happy and privileged to be here to give you my reflections and some of my understandings. Lampa Pate Visuddhi Muni has been very kind to invite me to share and speak with you all. And as Ajahn also been very kind, giving me this opportunity to speak with you all and sharing this moment of a fourth retreat. Quite interesting, though, that meditation should be done in a group, but because of this COVID-19, we have been moved to here online, and apparently it appears that it's been very successful. From only a few members, now there are over 100, I think 170 people have joined, both students and interested ones. And as we know that the meditation is very important, and particularly in the practice of Buddhism, in order to understand the Buddha's teachings, meditation essentials. Without the meditation, I would not be able to understand or comprehend what the Buddha was talking about. Before going into any teaching, I just would like to let all you know that in the UK this year they are celebrating, it's a program called Mental Health Awareness, and which is established by the Mental Health Foundation 21 years ago. You will be surprised to hear this. There is an organization called Mental Health Foundation in the UK, and they have been organizing this mental health awareness every year for 1 week in different topics. And this year they have already organized it, mental health awareness, from 10th to 16th of May 2021. And this year's theme is nature. And in relation to that, we are also having Interfaith Mindful Day at our meditation center here in Scotland, inviting different faith groups, whether Christian, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, and Jews are coming and talking through the nature and contemplating on. And this program, again, this Interfaith Mindful Day, been organizing, this is the 4th year too, that we have been organizing it. From the statistic, it suggests that over 50% of people, they feel happier when they come to nature, when they go for a walk, when they out from the house. As you may know that in England or in the UK, it's always raining and a wind, and it's horrible every day, and that can bring stress and troubles. So here the studies have shown that senior citizens, I mean the whole old people, when they have a dog, normally their health is more better than those who don't have. So when someone has got the dog, they have to come out from the house for a walk, and with that people become close to nature, and with that their mental health becomes much better than those who don't have. And this year's mental health is on a nature, and the theme is see, hear, and feel. Okay, so 3 words: see, hear, and feel. When we look at the practice of a meditation again, that's the same thing the Buddha was talking about in the practice of a meditation, that we have to see what's happening, and hear and feel it. So that is the practice of a meditation. The moment when we feel and see it, and that is, we are being mindful of that object. And obviously, since we are on a retreat practicing, there are a few things that you have to be mindful of and should be free from it. It's called leave all your tasks behind and concentrate on the practice. Now I think it's entirely up to you how much you're going to dedicate, how much you are going to put your effort to practice. But according to the Buddha's instructions to all of us, if we are thinking to go on a practice, then we have to give all the hindrances, so-called palipot, whether it is about the dwelling place, whether it is about the family matter, whether it is about any gain, or whether any activities in the community, your responsibilities, your relatives, whichever. During this time of a retreat, one has to make your mind that I'm going to leave all behind and purely will be practicing meditation. So otherwise, it would not helpful. You won't be able to gain knowledge. You won't be able to gain insight from this practice. because there is no superficial awareness at all. So making sure that you have, even though you may not be able to completely detached or not doing anything at all, but try to lessen it, minimize it. That minimizing helps to concentrate more. In this minimizing, again, if we know, whenever we look at the suttas in the scripture, what the Buddha said about to practice meditation, say aranya gato wa rukkamula gato wa sunya kara gato wa. Yeah? So we are going into the woods, going into the empty huts or under the tree. And that basically means choosing a best place to practice, where there is knowledgeable and where there is understandably less distractions. And that less distractions, again, not only the out from the outside, but also from inside. From outside, viveka, we can gain from disconnecting the world. But from inside, we have to overcome all these polypods. Only then we will be able to practice properly and gain good insight. We are, in a way, very fortunate despite of this COVID-19, and we're all locked down and everybody is facing with this. But we have masters online giving us guidance, giving us the talks and instructions and helping out. And after that preliminary stages that we have gone through, we need to be mindful further on that we are here, according to the Mahachula's instruction, is practicing in accordance with satipatthana, practicing satipatthana. And in satipatthana sutta, a discourse, the Buddha clearly said that satipatthana is the path. Ekayano makko. This is the path. The full version, full form. The benefit of this is stated in the Satipatthana is that Ekayano ayang bhikkhave maggo sattanang visuddhiya soka paridevanang samatikamaya dukkha domanasanang attankamaya nyaya sa adhikamaya nibbana sa satchikiriyaya yadidang chattaro satipatthana. So that is the summary of the whole satipatthana practice. First, ekayano. This is the path. This is the only path. And here, whoever walks on this path, that leads to the nibbana for sure. That leads to the purification of a being to start off before we attaining the nibbana. In this section of a purification of our beings, the moment when we observe sila, particularly during the retreat time, we are observing sila, the precepts, whether it is 5 precepts or whether it is 8 precepts. We are physically and verbally, we are purifying, because we have taken a vow that I will be mindful of not killing and not stealing, not having a sexual misconduct, not speaking lies, and not taking any intoxicants. So with that, we are basically purifying our bodily action and verbal action immediately. And further on, we are listening and practicing So with that, we are clearing our mind. So there is a sila visuddhi, the purification of a sila been completed, and then a chitta visuddhi. Slowly, as we practice, we will gain further mental purification. And as we are free from it, we will have less sorrow, less lamentation. We will be able to deal with our any worries and painful feelings, and also will be able to walk on the path to the liberation, and eventually we will be able to attain the Nibbana. So that is the initially saying that this is a path. What is it? This is the path. And what is it for? These are the 5 benefits or 7 benefits. And then the path, what is it that we are walking on? And that is called satipatthana. And we all know satipatthana. Now here, when we look at it, the satipatthana can be translated in 2 ways. Right? The first one is called sati upatthana, and the second one is called satipatthana, or sati plus pa, pa, and then thana. So in 2 ways we can look at the satipatthana, and whichever way you're looking at it, then we will understand in different ways, different meaning of satipatthana and how one should practice. First one is called sati upatthana. Means that sati, obviously we know that to remember, or presence of the mind, or being attentiveness, or being heedlessness, appamada. Now, upatthana is arising, arousing or arising. So the moment when we put our awareness to something, then that creates, okay, that establishes the sati, the mindfulness, or the attentiveness. It arises as we as we are sitting meditating, and we are requested in this particular a retreat, or the particular way of what we are practicing is rising and falling of the abdomen. And here, basically, we are adapting rising and falling of abdomen as a place to arise the sati, to arise the sati. And the second translation is satipatthana, is like our mind, or sati, we are establishing on particular foundation. Patthana, thana is the foundation. So one is arising, right? One is arising the sati with it, and the second is we already have a mindfulness and we are establishing there for the longer period of a time. So that these are the 2 ways of looking at the satipatthana. And here we already have a sati, and we are paying attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. And that's how we are setting up. We are firmly establishing our mindfulness on the rising and falling of abdomen. And that is the satipatthana. Even just 2 meanings are 2 different way of a practice in the satipatthana that we can see. And whichever way we are looking at it, whichever way we are practicing, one thing for sure is that the practice of meditation is not just like a superficial. It needs to be firmly established. It's not escaping away. Like a mind is not skip off from the phenomena of abdomen. Yeah, abdomen. Here, the simile we can listen, or you maybe have heard that it's like a hollow pumpkin. If you put the hollow pumpkin on a water, it will simply float, and it's just floating. And in the practice of a meditation, we should not keep our mind in that way, that we are not going along with the thoughts. You're not going along with whatever other objects arises, but at the beginning, we are simply paying attention to the primary object. Now here we have to remember two objects here. Number one is a primary object, and number two is a secondary object. When I say primary object, that means the main object that you have adapted. And in this case, in our case here, we are using the rising and falling of abdomen. So rising and falling of abdomen is the primary object. And whatever other objects arises, whether it is a sound, the pain, the feelings, or the thoughts, it is regarded as the secondary object. Right? Whenever these secondary objects arises, then we simply make a mental note about it. So I normally use observing, acknowledging, noting, and let it go. So these are the way how one should be practicing, and try to be with the primary object as long as one can. And here, as we are practicing, what happens is that as soon as we are practicing, the mind begins to think about so many other objects, so many other stuffs. And the moment when there is other thoughts arises, mind simply wobbles and goes around, float along with the thoughts. So in this case, we are not doing it, but we are watching and bringing it back. Watching and bringing it back. You may have experienced it, and I have heard here so many times and so much people talking that whenever we start meditating, immediately after a couple of minutes, the mind obviously will go thinking about other things. And during the question answer time, one of the famous questions would be, why I can't meditate, why my mind is always wandering around, why I can't pay attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. And that is obvious, because mind is always conditioned. It's a behavior activity that we have been training this mind ever since we are born to think about, to be active about this and that. And the moment now we are coming here practicing maybe just a one-off, or again, you don't have intention, a pure intention or a motive to practice, but you have to do because of the requirements, and then it's obvious that your mind will not be quietened. Obvious that the mind will not be silent and calm. And it takes a lot of time, a significant amount of time to gain such a calmness of the mind. So in that moment, do not need to worry. If mind wanders, do not need to worry. Let it wander. All what you need is to remember. That's a sati. Yeah, that's the sati. Need to remember that my mind has wandered. The moment when you able to be mindful of this state, saying that my mind has wandered, you are already mindful. There is a phrase called, when you know that you are not mindful, then you are mindful. Or when you know that you don't have a sati, you are already having the sati. So that's why it's a matter of remembering to do it. The moment when you remember to do it, then you are already mindful. You're consciously aware of that. There are plenty of people I come across. They would like to meditate, and they are going through a very difficult time. And somehow they have been referred by whether a GP, whether a doctor, or whether psychiatrists or counselors. They come and they are very enthusiastic to practice, and they will read books on it, and then that even becomes so enthusiastic and want to practice. And the moment when they come and practice, they can't meditate at all. Mind is all over the world. Mind is all around. Can't stop thinking even for a few moments. Thinking all around, but the object that I have given to think, they can't think. Yeah? So mind is like that. We want a mind to pay attention to an object that we would like it to be mindful of, but the mind normally chooses something else. And that is the trouble here. Yeah? And here will be pulling and pushing game starts. A good practitioner will not give up, and there will be a pulling and pushing game starts. Whenever mind goes off, become a mindful, paying attention to it, observing, acknowledging, noting, and it comes back to the primary object. And then as soon as you are with the primary object, paying attention for some times, again, it will go up. And again, coming back again. So there is a pulling and pushing game constantly going on. And with that game of pulling and pushing, gradually, this mind will be tamed. Yeah? This mind will be tamed. And slowly, slowly, you become more aware of the abdomen, rising and falling of abdomen, little bit more time, longer time. You become more aware of how it is rising, how it is falling. And in the moment when the mind goes and thinking of something else or having any other objects, you will be able to comprehend that, oh, this is happening now, and you will be coming back. So with that, what happens is that you are not going along with your thoughts. Mind is not going along with the thoughts. Yeah? And again, mind is not in a delusional state. Mind is always there to note and observe what's happening. Yeah? Note and observe what's happening. And this is the development of the awareness. In the meantime, as we become aware of it and we become able to note and observe at the same time, see when it is taking place and noting exactly what is happening at that time, basically that means we are there face to face with the object. We are not losing that object at all. Now here is the important part. Maintaining that is the difficult one. Maintaining awareness of the object that we have established our mind on that object is a difficult one. And here again we can look at it in two ways. The moment when we try to control this mind and try to pay attention to it and be with that object for a longer period of a time, then that's our intention to gain the samadhi. Okay, that is our intention to gain the samadhi. Samadhi basically means the unification of scattered mind to be one object, yeah, or having a one-pointedness awareness. So we are having only one object at one time and ability to maintain that awareness for a longer period of time. That is the samadhi. And here one is we're trying to gain the samadhi by establishing that awareness on that object firmly for a longer period of time. And the second practice is, now this is where the vipassana starts. In the second stage, rather than trying to control or hold with that object that we have paid attention to it. We are simply observing it. Yeah? Simply observing. And here I use these 4 words: observing, acknowledging, noting, and let it go. So this is the whole process of understanding the 3 characteristics. And that is the main object of the practice of a satipatthana. In other practice, whether we are practicing according to the anapanasati, or whether we are practicing according with the kayakata sati or any other practices, that is basically we are firmly establishing on one object for good. But whereas according to the satipatthana practice, we are knowing every phenomena that arises and then recognizing it as the impermanence, suffering, and anatta, and coming back to the moment. And that is a difficult part. And this is, once we have done properly, then gradually we will be able to see the impermanence of the phenomena. And with that, every perception that we have about whether it is about meditation, whether it is about our life, whether it is about our emotions, everything becomes the clear perception, sanya. Whatever we have a sanya about our life, about our understanding, about our studies, about what I have known or what we have studied, you will be dropping it off. But you will be establishing on whatever arises at that time, at that moment, and being mindful of it. And letting go. When we look at insight into it, the satipatthana plays a very, very important role in the formulation of the path that leads to the awakening. Yeah? The satipatthana plays a very essential part. If you look at the Eightfold Noble Path, where do you think satipatthana comes? It is the 7th factor of the Eightfold Noble Path. Now remember here, that is followed after the right effort. So you have to work. Only then you will realize the satipatthana. Similarly, in the 5 strength or the 5 bala or the faculties, the India, at the 3rd factor. Yeah? And this is again followed by effort and leading to concentration, and which is similar in Eightfold Noble Path, following on a right effort and leading to the concentration. So that's why we have to put a lot of effort to realize this satipatthana and this sati. And then further on in the bojjhanga, it comes at the 1st. So this that moment we have fully established our mind. That moment our mind is so alert and awake, and that's how it's become the bojjhangas, and that leading to the enlightenment. But obviously, satipatthana is not an easy job. Doesn't matter how many years we study, as long as we haven't fully comprehended and attained the nibbana, we are still in the patujjana and will be questioning about it again and again. In the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 12, Buddha clearly mentioned to Venerable Sariputta as well that suppose there's 4 disciples who have got the 100 years lifespan and 100 years to live, and they have been practicing satipatthana, but yet they will still have a question to ask and will never end. And never ends. So even with that 100 years of a questioning, there is no exhaustion of that question at all about the satipatthana. So that's why it's a very delicate and very deep meditation of the satipatthana. Here in the West, I've been living for a long time in teaching and discussion on the meditation, significant amount of time. What I have noticed that the more you meditate, the more question arises. And meanwhile, those questions, again, not related to the doctrines, but related to their own experiences. So that's why if you become a diligent practitioner, then sure, you will have more questions to arise. And meanwhile, each question will help you to gain enlightened. Okay, and the path becomes more clearer and brighter. That's why there is a saying that the fifth hindrance is about the doubt. We have so many doubts about the teachings, about the practice, about the teachers, about the methods, so on. But we never try ourselves to open our heart and look at it from the perspective of open heart, open mind. When I began this journey, I was practicing the anapanasati. Anapanasati in accordance to the Acharya Goenka's center. Meditating for 10 days retreat for many times. And I had a perception that this is the perfect path for me, and this is the perfect path as the Buddha taught. And that perception was like conformity that I am walking on the right path, and I will disregard of any other methods and even have a perception that other methods are not right. And it took me quite a long time to get rid of that perception that this is the only path and the rest of others are not. It took me quite a while, quite a long time. And even I remember when I was at the Mahachulalongkorn University studying a bachelor's and a master's, I used to debate and argue that this rising falling of abdomen method is not recorded in the Tipitaka, and it is not the right one. Like that, I used to debate for a long time until I realized by myself through my own practice, my whole perception changed. So that's why as a practitioner, we have to keep the mind open to everything and learn from our own mind and body. Learn from ourselves. Learn from ourselves. And when we learn from ourselves, all what we will come to understand is all the methods are simply a tool, just a vehicle, just a tool to work, tool to gain the sati, or mindfulness. The more we practice in accordance with that tool, based on how much effort that we have applied, then he will get a more mindfulness, or we will develop mindfulness more and more. And that development of a mindfulness is basically nothing more than the 4 foundations of a mindfulness, all 4 establishment of a mindfulness. Yeah? And that is even the Satipatthana Sutta. Sorry. Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha clearly mentioned that there is the case where a monk remains focused on the body, on the body, remain focused on a feeling, remain focused on the mind, and remain focused on the Dhamma, or the mental qualities or mental phenomena. And he will urgently practice. Now, urgent here is an effort. So we have to put significant amount of effort to practice. And as we know, that this meditation will definitely help to establish our conformity, the teachings, and also gain the saddha. Our doubt will diminish and eliminate. And that's the virya, urgent. And this urgent here, basically, you have put full effort. And then after that, you become alert. Alert, or having a clear awareness of each object, whether it is a body, whether it is a feeling, whether it is your mindset, or whether it is any dhammas that arises. You become able to be aware of each time when it arises. And that generates further mindfulness. So you become more mindful. And with that, what happens? And with that, any distress or any greed over this world will basically fades away. And in the practice of a satipatthana, again, what we have to remember that is a path that we are walking on to gain the enlightened or enlightenment. We are walking on the path. So satipatthana itself, Buddha clearly said in the Samyutta Nikaya that is the Eightfold Noble Path. So whether you are walking according or practicing according to the Eightfold Noble Path, or whether you are practicing satipatthana in accordance with the satipatthana, Mahasatipatthana, then basically we are walking on a path to the liberation. And here, walking on the satipatthana or practicing satipatthana is like you are walking towards the mountain. The analogy is you are walking towards the mountain. A mountain is so far away. I remember when I was walking up into the Everest base camp, there is one mountain called Amadablam. You can see from Namche Bazaar, and it looks like very close. But the more you walk, the further it goes. The more you walk, the further it goes. And even that, you will be feeling very tired. Your oxygen level goes down and walking very slowly. And then you see this mountain from so far and so many days, and yet you haven't arrived yet. So it takes about 4 days to get to this Amadablam. Like that. But you have this destination and you are walking on the path. And so walking is the satipatthana. Right? And that is the mindfulness. So we are mindful that we are walking towards this mountain. And our focus is there. And our focus is purely walking on the path until attain the destination. But if we are not mindful, what will happen? We simply walk other sides. We simply walk other sides because our senses are always very active. Our senses are very active, and it's very easy to be drawn away to other distractions. I sees beautiful scenes and, oh, okay, we better change this track and go to the next, like that. But whereas if we become mindful, we realize that mind only observes one object at a time. So we need to be walking on the path to the same path that lead to the mountain. And here mountain is the Nibbana. So that's why in the practice of a meditation, at this time I would like you to think of 3 words, A, B, C. A here, being aware of the object. Being aware of the object here, as we sit and meditate, being mindful of a rising and falling of abdomen, as we are practicing it, doesn't matter how many times mind goes off, just being aware, coming back to the primary object again and again. So that's the first one, aware. And second is being with the object. So learn to be with the object. And here, learn to be with the object is the primary object, which is the rising and falling of abdomen. Constantly paying attention to this rising and falling of abdomen, rather than having any other thoughts. Whenever other thoughts arises, simply use the formula that I have been talking, observing, acknowledging, noting, and let it go. And after that, you're coming back to the object. And then choose. So mindfulness meditation helps us to choose to react or to respond. Yeah? It's in our hand. It's up to us what we want to make it out of it. If we choose to react, then we are basically making a sankharas from the base of what I like and what I dislike, making it to the punyabhi sankhara or apunyabhi sankhara, good or bad, wholesome or unwholesome. But if you simply respond it, what happens is that it's become a defunct. There is no reaction to it. That is simply ends there. Yeah, that ends there, and that is, it's like Buddha gave this teachings saying ditte dittamattang. When you see, just to see, there is no response, there is no reaction to it, what I have seen. I like it or dislike it. There is no, not like that. You simply see it as you are seeing it. Sutte suttamattang. You hear, only hear. You have no judgment or opinions on that whether I like it or dislike it. Okay? So that is the practice that we have to adopt and develop. And with that, gradually rest will come and rest will develop. All what we need is to check your motivation, that why you are here, why you are attending this retreat. That is the first motivation that you have to ask to yourself. If you can ask and can answer it correctly, then you will get the answer. You will get the result. If you are thinking that your motivation is simply to fulfill the requirements of the Mahachula, then you will get nothing. You will get the certificate that, okay, you have attended, you have fulfilled, and then you complete your academic course. You will get that for sure. But if you have a motivation to practice, then again, you will gain at least of clearance in the things or in the knowledge, in the method that you have studied or you have practiced in the past, become more clearer. Yeah? Become more clearer, and the path becomes much smoother and easier. And when we practice again, we will be understanding more better, and there will be no question that why I am having a distractions, why I can't meditate. There will be no question of why I can't meditate, why I can't stop thinking. There will be no question of what's going on, because everything or every phenomena that arises becomes an object. So that's why it's your choice. You make your choice this time. And this choice that you are making will take you to the destination. taking you to the success of your own desired motivation. But if you don't have the right motivation, then all your reactions will be towards it, because all in the mind. Whatever we think, our mind will be taking us to there. If we close ourselves, then we will get nothing. If we open ourselves, we will get everything. We have a saying here in Scotland, Scottish people never ask, never ask for help. And I have been telling them all the time, don't be shy to ask. Don't be shy to ask for help. It is your right to ask for the help, and it is their right to refuse what you have asked. Okay, you have a right to ask, but do not expect what you have asked to be given. You can ask, but do not expect the result. Meanwhile, you should not be angry if they do not give it to you, despite of knowing that they have it. You should not be angry, because that's their property, that's their right. So you have a right to ask, they have a right to refuse. And with that, what happens? Everything is fine. And as a practitioner, particularly Buddhists, I normally say that as a Buddhist, we should not create any boundaries on the basis of ethnicity, basis of the nationality, basis of religion. Because as we practice meditation, it helps us to open up and be with the nature, be with the just to be. Yeah. So with this, I end here for tonight. Today's talk, and I will leave you a few minutes if anybody has got any questions. And in a couple of days' time, I'm coming back again to give a talk. And during that time again, if any one of you has got any questions, then I'm happy to answer. So for now, I will end here, and thank you everyone for listening. May you all be well and happy. May you all have successful retreat and gain good knowledge until the attainment of a Nibbana. Sadhu. So if anyone has got any question, in case there is a time for it.
The Vipassana Institute, we would like to say thank you to Venerable Sujan Bora Punya that give us a lot of knowledge and sharing the important and very benefit for our life. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so is there any time for the question answer or มีเวลาถามตอบไหมครับอาจารย์
ช่วงนี้น่าจะเป็นวันยังไม่ได้ตอบถามตอบเดี๋ยวเอาไว้จันทร์นี้เลยแล้วก็เข้ามานั่งรอก่อนครับถวายความเคารพพระอาจารย์ครับเพราะว่าสืบเนื่องจากว่าต้องกราบขออภัยเนื่องจากว่าจะให้ถามในวันที่2นะครับพระอาจารย์ครับเพราะว่าวันนี้เป็นวันปฏิบัติธรรมวันแรกครับพระอาจารย์ครับต้องกราบขอบพระคุณพระอาจารย์ด้วยความเมตตาเป็นอย่างยิ่งครับ